In this video, I'll guide you step by step through the process of drawing this example of op art or geometric art. You'll learn how to apply specific techniques to complete the work with geometric accuracy. If you're a landscape artist, or if you enjoy geometric art and want to expand your knowledge, let me say right away that mastering these geometric techniques and concepts is extremely useful for drawing urban landscapes, essential in architecture, and of course, fundamental in geometric art. So, without further ado, I invite you to follow along with this tutorial. Let's begin. We'll start by drawing a baseline and marking the points that will determine the length of the square's side. With a compass, measure this segment, and from one end, draw an arc as shown in the images. Then, place the compass needle at the other end and draw another arc in the opposite direction. You don't need to complete the arcs. Just mark where they intersect each other and where they meet the segment's ends. Next, set the compass needle at the intersection of the arcs and draw two marks, one on each side above the segment's ends. Once that's done, draw a diagonal line from one end of the segment, passing through the intersection of the arcs and crossing the small upper arc on the opposite side. Then draw another diagonal in the opposite direction. With these steps, you'll have the points you need to construct a perfect square. From one end of the baseline, draw a vertical line up to the point where it meets the diagonal and the small arc. Do the same from the other end of the baseline. Then connect the points where these verticals intersect the arcs. This gives us the square we need to begin our design. Now draw a long horizontal line above, using as reference the intersections of the guidelines that helped us form the square. Next, extend two diagonals from the corners of the square until they reach that upper horizontal line. Make sure these diagonals extend well downward as well. Draw a vertical line through the point where the diagonals intersect, and then a horizontal line through that same point. Highlight the square with slightly thicker black lines. Then, with the compass centered at the intersection point inside the square, draw a circle. Adjust the compass so that the circle intersects the diagonals at the upper line. You'll see that it also intersects the diagonals below. This allows us to extend new lines and construct a second, larger square. Be sure to extend these lines generously in all directions, as shown in the sample. Once again, use the compass to measure the distance between the vertex of the larger square and the projection of the smaller square. With this opening, mark intersections on the extended guidelines, as shown in the images. Repeat this step at all four corners. Then draw the four outer lines that pass through those marks. Next, we'll draw a slightly larger circle that passes through the vertices of the four smaller outer squares formed by the last guidelines. If your compass doesn't open wide enough, I'll show you how to improvise one. Use a thin but sturdy piece of wood or stiff cardboard. Pierce one end to hold the compass needle at the center and make another hole at the correct distance for the pencil. This way, you can draw the larger circle accurately. Now let's focus on the smaller square, which we already divided into 4 parts with guidelines. We'll divide it once more to create 16 smaller squares. Then we'll trace the remaining diagonals to complete the reference points and finally reinforce the lines in black. From the corners of this subdivided square, draw lines that extend outward to meet the horizontal line and the outermost circumference. To determine the back edge of this square, use an auxiliary square of the same size, placing it along the lower side. With the compass, draw an arc to match the dimensions of the central square. From the bottom corner of this square, draw a line toward the point where the previous lines converge. Then add a diagonal inside the square, and from the opposite bottom corner, draw another line toward that same convergence point. This creates a new intersection, which defines the depth of the cube we're building. The horizontal line we drew here shows where the back face meets the outermost line. As you can see, we now draw a diagonal and the other lines that converge toward the point where they intersect with the outer circle. This gives us the reference points for the vertical lines that will divide this face into 16 smaller squares. Repeat this process until you reach the edge of the larger square. Next, continue drawing lines from each intersection point, where the verticals meet the central diagonals, toward the convergence point. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. To ensure the depth is consistent, measure the distance from the center with the compass and continue tracing all the lines that meet at the outer circle. The following lines are even simpler to draw. Use the central vertical line, which intersects the outer circle both above and below. Although these intersections fall outside the drawing surface, they guide us. We also use the points where the central diagonals cross the other lines. At this stage, it's simply a matter of connecting them. Now begin reinforcing the drawing with clean black lines. Mark the squares at the intersection points defined by the guidelines. Continue adding lines that converge toward the outer points, but stop them at the limits of the larger square. At this nearly final stage, we'll add new guidelines to establish the dimensions of the last squares, the outermost ones, which also create the illusion of depth. Measure the segment of the outer face of the central square, then transfer this measurement outward 3 times, as shown here, on each of the 4 sides. Now we just need to draw the final auxiliary lines to complete the grid. Add 3 horizontal lines above, 3 below, and finally 3 vertical lines on each side. With a black pen or pencil, trace the 3 corresponding squares. Then draw the horizontal lines on both sides, making sure they align with the inner grid. Do the same with the verticals. With that, we complete the proposed geometric art drawing. Erase all the auxiliary lines. At this stage, if you like, you can go further. Paint over each line in white, leaving a thin black border. This produces a striking visual effect. To enhance it even more, apply color and shading to the entire design.
If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, don't forget to give it a like. Got questions or want me to explain something in more detail? Just drop a comment below. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming tutorials. It also really helps me keep making more content. Thanks for watching. See you in the next tutorial.